Pot the reds and screw back for the yellow, green, brown, blue, pink and black. Snooker, loopy, nuts our way. We're all snooker, a loopy, a bum bum. Take it away, John. I'd rather not, Dennis.
Welcome to the Snooker Loopy podcast. 14 days of daily podcasts where there's been laughs, there's been mistakes, there's been Joe slacking off, and there's been far too many mentions of Rob Walker. But finally, today we are at the final of the World Snooker Championship, but also the start of our final coverage at the Snooker Loopy podcast. My name is Tom Mayhew, and as always, I'm joined by a man who some say there's a passing resemblance between us. He's so old, we don't know how he picks up a cue. But we do know the reason he's reached the Crucible is because he's having sex with a French mistress. His children, John and Dennis, are in the audience. Come on, Daddy! It's Joe! The silent assassin, warrior, Welsh potting machine, escort Haddard!
Well, a very good evening, Catherine. A very good evening, Rishi. And a very good evening, Hazel. And a very good evening, everybody at home. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Tom. And I have nothing else to say other than it's a cracker.
I thought I'd put the classic introductions from our Crucible coverage together and smash them together. Which is something I should do as a supercut, maybe. Yeah. I should supercut all of Rob Walker's.
Yeah. It was brilliant. It was brilliant, Tom. I thought when you said welcome and then you started talking about day 14, I thought we were getting the full-on Rob Walker experience and you were going to go, here at the Crucible, and then I would have to go, way, and, get a standing ovation, stomping the feet, all of that. But maybe that's tomorrow's episode.
We can do that tomorrow, mate. There we go. That's something for listeners to tune in tomorrow, where we're going to do a full, even bigger Rob Walker introduction. I'm going to have to, before the podcast, MC Joe a bit to get him hyped up. That's what Rob Walker does. He reminds people how to clap. That's what you got to do as an MC. It's strange, because Rob Walker's MCing is very similar to the kind of MCing you'd get at a typical open mic comedy night, in that it is him going like, this is how you clap and you've got to cheer at this moment.
No, absolutely. And he does a great job, and people say a lot about Rob Walker, but I don't think I've ever seen him make a mistake. Like, obviously he's sometimes
you do not remember him bringing out Steve Davis as Dennis Taylor.
As Dennis Taylor. I was about to say that, but he doesn't fluff his lines ever, and I think that's to his credit, really. Yeah, we're getting towards the end, and of course we're recording this after both semi-finals have ended, so we now know our two World Championship finalists, and, well, at least one of them I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams would have predicted, but it is going to be the warrior, come on daddy, Kyron Wilson, against the silent assassin Welshman, young player, apparently at 30 years old, Jack Jones.
Relatively young in snooker terms. That makes someone young, 30, right?
Well, for now he is, but I think Stephen Hendry won his last World Championship at 29 or something, so that sort of puts into perspective how much snooker has aged in the last 20 years or so.
But neither of the semi-finals were very close, were they? We kind of both predicted that one of them would be close and the other one might have someone winning 17-12. I predicted Bingham to beat Jack Jones 17-12. It was the other way, it turns out. Bingham just couldn't find his long game, and that's such a crucial part of the way he plays that if he's not got that, he's in trouble. So, gutting really to see Bingham really struggle. It's the first time in this tournament where he played like he's played most of this season, and it was gutting to see him, not have a nice time in the semi-final, because all the rest of the tournament he's been almost smiley and he's been playing well and playing great shots, and it was a tough watch for the Bingham fan club, which I like to think we are.
Yeah, absolutely. He did struggle. And what was bizarre is that both matches were 8-8 after two sessions. So it's kind of crazy how much Kyron and Jack Jones both moved in that third session to create the gap, and then sort of just shared the frames in the final session to take it. But that's all it takes is one good session in a semi-final to get you over the line, and so it proved. And once again, Jack Jones gets through with an 84% pot success. Now, to put that into perspective, he's missing 1 in every 5 pots with that percentage, and that's crazy, because 4 pots gets you to 16, red, black, red, black. He then misses the next red. It is essentially what the stats are saying. I mean, I think there's a little bit more behind that. I think he has taken on a lot of long shots this tournament, and perhaps that's impacting it. But I just find it really, really intriguing how actually low standard some of the stats were in the semi-finals. I know Dave Gilbert had something like 5 centuries in the match against Kyron and still lost 17-11. That just seems bonkers.
We should say it wasn't just Jack Jones and Bingham, it was the other match as well, because as you say, I've got it up here. Gilbert had 4 centuries to Wilson's 0. For a player to win a best of 17, both him and Jones both won without a century, which is utterly baffling, really.
Yeah, I think it shows the standard of player we've got in this semi-final, and you know, it's not to be too disrespectful to them, but there's a reason why they've had the seasons that they have, because they've not performed this season. You know, other than Kyron, I was seeing today, he's got over 60 centuries this season, so it's a bit bizarre that he is so far out of the... I mean, what was it, 19th on the one-year list? But I suppose it shows what winning a title does for you, and certainly what a lack of a title does for you. A bit like Kyron's had this year, he maybe just hasn't had the luck to get himself through.
Not just winning a title in terms of a player's ranking, but also, you know, a player going on a deep run in a tournament. Both Bingham and Jack Jones, the semi-final alone meant they earned more for that match than they did for the rest of the season, like both of them. Neither of them had earned more than 100 grand all season, and suddenly they get 100 grand just for playing in the semi. You get 200 if you get through. And that's just the weight of the World Championships and how much a good run in this World Championship really can boost a player. Yeah, it was just very bizarre this year that we had 2 semi-finalists. We had Bingham, who'd made about 60 grand. I think Jack Jones had made a similar amount. And they were competing to be in the World Championship final.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to think of another such unexpected finalist, and you probably have to go all the way back to 2005, I reckon, with Sean Murphy when he won it as a qualifier. I mean, I know Judd Trump got to the final as a qualifier in 2011, but he just won the China Open, so I don't think it was a massive shock that he got to the final of the World Championships. Obviously, Ding Junhui got to the final as a qualifier, but that's Ding. Graham Dott, I think, has made the final as a qualifier in the past, but of course, he's a world champion, so it wouldn't have been so surprising had Bingham got to the final as a qualifier. But Jack Jones has come from nowhere almost in the last 2 seasons at the Crucible, and it's a funny old game. And Jack Jones, I'm fairly sure, hasn't lost a session yet in the World Championship, which it's not often players get to the final without at least one bad session where they've maybe lost it 5-3. Jack Jones has done an incredible job, and he said in his interview afterwards he's been good at winning this tournament. He's not been playing well, but he's done enough to win, and all of his matches he's won incredibly comfortably in the end.
Well, what's interesting, Joe, is I was looking it up before the podcast, and this will be the first World Championship final where neither of the finalists have won it since Sean Murphy against Matthew Stevens in 2005. And obviously, Jack Jones is the first qualifier to potentially win it since Sean Murphy in 2005. But not only that, what's really interesting about Jack Jones is, as you say, other qualifiers who have done well are Ding Junhui or Stuart Bingham or Dave Gilbert. Whereas Jack Jones is a player who, his high ranking for his whole career was 35, which is his current rank before this tournament. He's someone who is 30, who's been a pro for about 10 years. So at least with the likes of Sean, he was young. Do you know what I mean? It was like Sean and Judd, you were like, oh, they're young stars who have taken a couple of years to find their game. Whereas it's taken Jones slightly longer, which makes it even more of a shock, because you do just go, God, where was this guy in his 20s? He did nothing in his 20s comparatively.
I suppose it's very similar to how Zhang Anda has come on the scene this season. never been in the top 64 until last season, and has ended up winning the International Championship, got to another final at the English Open, I believe. And he's been a consistent player at the latter stage of tournaments all season, really, until the World Championship, where ironically he lost to Jack Jones. So Jack could well really reap the rewards of this deep run if he is in the top 16, which he will be for reaching the final, of course. But if he goes on to win it, and as you say, guaranteeing almost that top 16 spot for the next couple of years, that just gives him a slightly easier route into tournaments, perhaps a little bit, certainly last 16 or last 32 of the UK Championships, for instance, without playing a shot. I believe that's also happening at the Home Nations events going forward as well. So it could be a moment where we're seeing a real top player for the next 10 years or so.
It could
develop.
be that, or it could be Joe Johnson, who, do you know what I mean, was similar to Brissell, a very surprise winner.
Yeah.
But only, I was looking it up the other day, he only actually played at the Crucible 8 times. And twice he got to the final, but only 8 times, compared to people today. Bingham was on his 18th time, Maguire 20th time, Murphy's in the 20s, I think Selby's on 20, and that's not even including the class of 92. So it's going to be interesting to see where Jones goes from here. Obviously, there'll be a lot more pressure on him now, because he'll be going into far more matches as the favourite. I don't think there's been a single match this tournament where he's been the favourite. He still won't be the favourite tomorrow.
He certainly won't be. Yeah. Well, I completely and utterly agree with you. I think it is going to be a big match for him. And if there's ever going to be a time that we see those nerves, I think it's going to be in the World Championship final. And, fingers crossed he can give a good account of himself. And, if he does win it, it'll be probably the greatest story in the sport since Joe Johnson won in 86. I genuinely think that, even Sean Murphy winning in 05 maybe wasn't such a seismic shock as it would be if Jack Jones won it. And it's funny because I was talking in my World Championship, or our World Championship preview, about, is there going to be a Luke Littler effect from this draw? Is there going to be a Stan Moody that comes all the way through from qualifying and gets to the world final? And little did I know in that preview that there would be a qualifier in the final, that there'd be 3 qualifiers in the semi-final stage. But I have to say, I can't see Jack Jones having the Luke Littler effect on snooker that I was maybe hoping for from a new name coming out. And this is a quote of the day, Tom, from Rachel. I sort of said this. I said, he's not quite as easy on the eye as Luke Littler. And, she stayed silent for a minute or so. Anyway, Bingham comes to the table and she goes, "You know what? I don't get what you mean about him being easy on the eye." And I went, "Well, he doesn't play particularly quick. He doesn't score a lot of centuries." And she went, "Well, I was going to say, because, you've got people like Stuart Bingham playing snooker, and Luke Littler's ugly." And I was like, "What are you saying about Stuart Bingham? Are you saying that he's ugly?" And she was like, "Well, people look like Stuart Bingham, like John Higgins." I was just like, oh my word.
Stuart Bingham? That's not Angraham. Stuart Bingham is a beautiful man. He's beautiful. I'd happily watch him in his hot tub all day. Paddling about.
Well, Kyron Wilson has been inspired by Stuart Bingham in his swim shorts this week. Clearly,
and that's the only thing I can think. He saw him in his swim shorts. Suddenly, he's in the final. Basically, he owes Stuart Bingham big time for this.
It would have been quite funny, actually, if they'd played off against each other in the final, because maybe Stuart Bingham could distract him by turning up at his hotel room in his swim shorts. But
I thought you were going to say Stuart Bingham could play in his swim shorts.
That would be hilarious. It would be almost as good as Sean Murphy's green baize suit that you were talking about the other day.
Well, it would put your opponent off if Bingham was just in his swim shorts, nothing else. He's basically done the Mark Williams thing, but he's already nearly naked while playing in the final.
Yes, yeah.
But obviously, we're both gutted about Bingham not reaching the final, and I think most snooker fans would be gutted for David Gilbert because, especially the way the semi-finals lined up, it did feel like Jack Jones and Kyron could have a lot more shots at this, whereas I don't know whether we'll see Gilbert or Bingham have a better chance of reaching a final ever again, sadly, because they're in their 40s, they're going to be reaching towards the end of their careers, and so I think it was quite gutting really for both of them. They both probably didn't feel like they played as well as they should have done, even though they had fantastic tournaments. Like, they're both the top two players in terms of centuries this tournament is David Gilbert and Stuart Bingham. And of course Joe would have been hoping that Bingham would get the high break.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It looked on for most of the tournament. When I saw it was Bingham in the semi-final, I was thinking Joe might actually win this, but still the high break is the 1-4-2.
Yeah, by Ricky Walden and Ali Carter and Maguire or something daft like that.
Ricky Walden, Jackson Page, and Mark Williams, and the three of them will share it.
But I'm actually really happy for Kyron. I am gutted for Bingham and Gilbert because they're really nice guys. But actually, I think we need Kyron in particular to grab a Triple Crown and really start winning tournaments regularly, in my opinion, because I think he's a young lad. He's a really nice guy, is Kyron, and I can't think anybody would dislike Kyron. Maybe the way people might dislike a Judd Trump or a Mark Allen or even a Mark Selby for, I guess, a bit edgier personalities when it comes to certainly losing. And, I don't think you'd ever see that from Kyron. So I think a little bit similar to Sean Murphy being the gentleman of the sport, I think Kyron can really sort of come into that. So I think the sport kind of needs him to win it sooner rather than later. Not necessarily this year, but a Triple Crown soon so that he can start being in that winner's enclosure a little bit more often and continue that rivalry with Judd Trump as well. I'm certainly looking forward to the final. Two days, obviously best of 35. It's the most wonderful snooker match on the calendar. First to 18. I just think there's nothing like it, is there? You could say the semi-finals are very, very close to it, at best of 33, but there's something about it being 18, being the big target, and it's been that since, I think, about 1980, 81, so I just love that.
And the fact, as we've said, the first time it's a final with no one who's won the title before since 2005. That just ramps up the tension, it ramps up the excitement. We have Kyron, who was probably maybe like sixth favourite before the tournament, so he wasn't massively fancied, but people would maybe go, well, he's a seed, he's possibly got a chance. Jack Jones was completely unfancied, the qualifier, no one expected him to do anything, really. Like, on the event prediction website me and Joe used, about 1,200 people predicted their winner, and not a single person said Jack Jones. I don't think a single person picked him to even get to the semi-finals. So for him to get to the final is an incredible story. It's people like Sean Murphy, Judd Trump, Ding, when they got to the final, they were young, but all of them had had 10 years of people going, this guy's going to be a future world champion. This guy's amazing. This guy at the age of 14 can beat 18-year-olds. Whereas Jack Jones never had that height as a junior player or as a pro player in his 20s. So it's a bit more like when Bingham reached the final, really, but even more so than Bingham, because Bingham had some ranking titles to his name when he reached the final. But it is a player who is a relatively long-term pro, who hasn't really done anything, and then suddenly reaches the final. It's, yeah, as you say, Joe Johnson is the only one I can think it's like, because we're so used to every final being Steve Davis or Stephen Hendry or Ronnie or Class of 92.
I suppose also maybe Dennis Taylor. I'm not as clued up on Dennis's career before 85. Obviously, he reached the world final in 79.
He said on commentary that the last time a Welsh qualifier reached a final was when Dennis lost to Terry Griffiths in 79.
That's great, isn't it? And I'm in the final, now.
Yeah, but we didn't get that from Jack Jones. He just went, yeah, I feel really happy. And it's just, I want a player with charisma. Like, do you know what I mean?
I know. What you want, really, is somebody a little bit like Sean Murphy, but 20. Do you know what I mean?
Well, Stan Moody looks like Sean Murphy.
He does look like him, but he is miserable. But Dennis Taylor, I don't know if he'd won any ranking events or any invitational events before 1985, but obviously he'd been to the final before. So, yeah, I think Joe Johnson is the only player that we can really think of. I guess Jimmy White, when he reached the final in 84, I suppose that was, and he got the semi-final, I think, in 82. You know, that was new kid on the block vibes, but again, he had such excitement around him. Jimmy White, I assume he probably won a tournament before that final. Yeah, it's just really exciting, actually, to think, wow, in 48 hours' time, we could be sat here doing our final podcast on your channel, Tom, saying Jack Jones is a world champion. I don't think we would have ever thought we'd have been uttering those words. And I will say it now, Tom. If Jack Jones wins the World Championship on Monday, I will start a new Snooker 19 career with Jack Jones on the Captain Goodspeed channel.
How excited are you about playing the biggest match there is in snooker? You and Kyron Wilson. There'll be a new name on the trophy. Do you feel excited or do you still feel calm? Because you look calm.
Yeah, I don't feel that excited, to be honest. No, I suppose I should, but probably because I still got another match to play, prepare for. So getting excited or anything like that won't do me any favours.
You've already made one big promise recently. Your promise was if we got through the Twitter vote for the best snooker podcast, you would buy the Stephen Hendry action figure. And we've got the poll results here. Thank you to Lewis, who's commented these results. He's worked out how many votes everyone got. So thank you to our very own Phil Yates of the podcast for letting us know that the poll results, total clearance got 40% with 100 votes. Snooker Club got 28% with 70 votes. The Snooker Loopy podcast got 23.2% with 58 votes. So we were only 12 votes behind Snooker Club.
I mean, that's amazing. I think that is such a big achievement for us at our stage.
We would have got through any other group.
Yeah. 100%. We knew that, though. We were underestimated by snooker.org and in our seeding. However, you know, I think we've got to be proud of that. You know, 17 votes off Stephen Hendry's podcast, which we said at the time. As soon as that came out, we said it's basically a rip-off of our podcast. Of course, it isn't really, but it's the same sort of idea. But I think that's a bit of an embarrassment for them to come second to anybody in a group when they're hosting live events at the Crucible. And
well, the main thing we should say is thank you so much to all our fans who went and voted and who shared the link and
thank you.
Mobilised a bit, because for us to get so close to the official WST podcast, I think that shows that we are making something that people enjoy, people care about, and that hopefully next year we'll win it. Don't you worry. That's our goal for next year. This was the
He's
year
beginning to annoy me now.
Yes, he is, Hendry. He is beginning to annoy me now, frankly.
Speaking of our fans, Tom, we did receive another email to our snookerloopypodcast@gmail.com email address. Make sure you get in contact if you do want us to read out any messages. And this is from Aidan Bell, who, of course, Aidan I bumped into at the Tour Championship, and I've given him a few shout-outs, and he's certainly very happy that we've got the Snooker Loopy podcast email. So I'll just read out what he said. He said, "Hi, Tom and Joe. It was nice to meet you at the Tour Championship, Joe, and I'm pleased the podcast is continuing to grow. You're both doing an incredible job, and I particularly enjoy the niche comedy nature which sets the podcast apart from many of the others available.
Hey.
I'm delighted you now have an email address to send things to, as now and again I see things you may like to use for some of your features. Apologies if you're already aware of these below, but I hope you enjoy them if you aren't. Please do send us those things. As a bit of a side note, send us anything and everything. We love all these little niche findings." He said he was at the Crucible on the first weekend, and opposite the stage door I saw a poster for an art exhibition, which I also seen, incidentally enough. I know you've probably featured portraits of snooker players in the past on the podcast. We definitely have. Rob Walker and Sean Murphy's love child with Liang Wenbo. So thought you might like to take a look. There's a whole Facebook page, which is where the image below is from. So we'll have a look at that in a future Cue the Laughter. And he also signposted us a couple of music features. So there was one in a Masters Power Cut about 10 years ago where somebody came out, or a cameraman came out and played his guitar. So he's given us a link to that. And he's also given us a link to somebody playing Snooker Loopy in a shopping centre, which...
Ooh.
I mean, how much more could you get Snooker Loopy podcast out of that? But yeah, he said, hope you enjoy these. Keep up the good work. Kind regards, Aidan. So thank you very much for that email. Really do appreciate everybody getting in touch with us. And yeah, keep it coming at snookerloopypodcast@gmail.com if you want to get in touch.
I think a new thing, Joe, should be everyone who gets in touch, you say, thanks, Aidan, as Dennis.
Thank you, Thank you, Aidan.
There we go. So if you want to get in touch, and if we read it out and use it, that's what you get. You get a personal thank you from Dennis Taylor himself. We did get a tweet. Was it from Matt, who tweeted a picture of him and Dennis Taylor and said, I just bumped into Joe Hannard.
Yeah. Yes, and Dennis looking in great spirits there. What I absolutely love is that how much of our Twitter at the moment is just people going, good evening, Hazel. And even Livy on the podcast the other night doing her own Dennis Taylor impression. I mean, that was brilliant. So it's catching on, Tom. It's catching on. You need to get your impression sorted.
Who am I supposed to be? I don't know.
I mean, your Rob Walker was pretty good, wasn't it?
Was it? Come on, Daddy!
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I'm not as talented as you at impressions. You and Livy are both the two best people I know at impressions. You're both great. Well, and Lewis the other day was his Phil Stud.
Yeah, Lewis. Yeah, no, Phil Yates, not Phil Stud.
Sorry,
Tom.
oh my God.
Get it right.
I don't know why I thought. There's too many Phils. Did you see the video of Stephen Maguire eating a fly?
I've seen of it. I didn't watch it.
He smacks his hand on the table, kills this fly, he picks it up, puts it in his mouth and goes... and then just Dennis over commentary goes, looks tasty.
I mean, isn't that the most Scottish thing that Stephen Maguire's ever done?
Absolutely loved it. That's the kind of character we need winning the World Championship. A man who kills a fly mid-match and just eats it.
Just spotted something on the table there. I'm not sure what it was. Tastes nice.
Right, Joe, shall we cue the music?
Let's cue the music.
There we go. There's today's cue the music, Joe.
Ooh.
This is a return to... we've had loads of amateur snooker players singing songs for us, but this is a return to the professional arena, Joe. We've got a man who was at the Crucible this season, giving it his best shot. And we did famously have a listener who said he gave us a Geordie version. So today, Joe, we have a version sung by the Tyneside Terror himself.
Wow. I mean, he was my outside tip for winning the World Championship. And I guess I was on the right lines thinking there would be an outsider coming. Didn't expect him to go out the first round, but I'm very, very much intrigued into how much he puts into his version of Snooker Loopy. Now, does he know what's at stake here? Our league table, which we've talked so much about, and thanks again to Matt for putting this together. But what are your predictions going into it, Tom? Is he going to be a high flyer, or is he going to be somebody that's propping up the rear?
I think he's going to do a good job. And the reason for that is, in the most respectful way, I don't think he will get as many orders on Memo as the likes of Crafty Ken or Dennis. So I think he'll be like Mark King in that every time he gets an order, he'll go, right, I've got to make this brilliant. So he might even be in a car park. I'm just saying he might be in a car park. I don't know. I've not watched it. It's a bold prediction, I know. But I think Gary Wilson might be either in a car park or maybe on the Metro.
Oh, on the Metro. Goodness me. You're getting your Tyne and Weir knowledge in there, Tom. Where's that come from? Is he on the Metro?
I don't know. I've not watched it.
Okay.
But I've probably got the Metro from watching too many videos of you talking about South Shields, to be honest.
Fair enough. Anyway, we digress. I'm ready if you are, Tom.
All right, Gary Wilson here. I've got a little random message here for Snooker Loopy. Got the lyrics here. I'm guessing you want us to sing the song. Absolutely, not a problem. Snooker Loopy, not so we, me and him and them and me. We'll show you what we can do with a load of balls in a snooker queue. Pop the reds and screw back for the yellow, green, brown, blue, pink and black. Snooker Loopy, not so we, we're all Snooker Loopy. Cheers, guys.
I read.
Oh,
I read there.
There we go. He did get a bit of the Geordiness in there, mate.
Gaza
Absolutely
W,
love that.
eh? Gaza W. I have to say, that is a pleasant surprise. He was very cheery, wasn't he?
It was lovely, mate. I would say genuinely, because on this memo pathway we've gone down, most of the ones we started with were Dennis Taylor and John Virgo, and we'd kind of love them whatever they did.
Yeah.
But the two biggest surprises for me have been Mark King and now Gary Wilson, because they probably went for it. They seemed really upbeat and happy, and it just puts a smile on your face.
Well, the three that I think have put the most in are Stuart Bingham, Mark King, and Gary Wilson. What do they all have in common?
Bold?
Yes. Maybe that's the secret. So if we got Peter Ebdon doing it, or John Higgins these days, I can't imagine him doing. He'd go, oh aye, Snooker Loopy.
Well, we need more of this, Joe. I'll take it away, mate.
No, not so wee. a wee bit of haggis. That's the end of that one, right?
Or we could have Graham Dot going, Snooker Loopy, not so we, me and them and me. We'll show you what we can do with a load of balls and a snooker cue. Pop the red and screw back for the yellow, green, brown, blue, pink and black. Snooker Loopy, not so we. We're all snooker Loopy.
And for the second day in a row, we've had Winnie the Pooh join our podcast.
I thought it was more Mickey Mouse, to be honest. But
it ended up very Minnie Mouse, to be honest with you. But
if Disney want me for voiceover work, just get in touch. I'm happy to work for very cheap rates.
yeah. But I have to say, you know what? He sung it well. There wasn't any bums at the end, which was a shame. I don't know if you noticed, but he went slightly Cockney halfway through as well.
Well, clearly he's one of those singers who would sing a song in its original accent. So if he sings a song by an American artist, he'll use American phrases and go and use their accent. So, I mean, we could test other songs and see if he can... Maybe he's great at impressions. We don't know this.
What we need to do, Tom, is get him to sing Everlasting Love.
Well, mate, I'm just saying he's only 10 quid.
Yeah, he's half the price of Mark Joyce, amazingly enough.
He's a quarter of a Dennis Taylor.
Yeah, and he's a fifth of a Stephen Hendry.
Genuinely, I think for that price and the effort he's put in, he should be flooded with orders off the back of this, because I thought that was great, and I think more people should just see what you can get Gary Wilson to do. Have some fun with it.
But now we've got to get to the difficult part of giving him a rating. Now, I mean, for me, that was pretty damn good. Now, just for some context here of Snooker Loopy ratings, John Virgo got an 8 from you, Tom. Mark King got a 7. Fionn got a 7.98. Crafty Ken got a 6. Stuart Bingham got a 7. So, you know, we're talking in the ballparks of between 6 and 8. Where does Gary Wilson rank for you?
I'd put him in the same ballpark as Bingham and Mark King, and I think that means I'll give him a 7.
A 7?
Like, anyone who's got a 7 or above, that means I'm really happy with it, and I think they did a great job. Like, I'd happily buy a memo from any of these people again in this little system. Not so sure about Ken, because I think he'll go, Ken, can you wish my friend Joe a happy birthday? He'll just go, hello there, happy birthday. Cheers, guys, and that'll be it.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, that'll be it.
Yeah, I think he would say that. Yeah. I think I'm going to give Gary Wilson, the Tyneside Tirra, a 7.5. 7.5.
Ooh, well, I like the. He did have a bit of a Geordiness, but strangely, he was less Geordie because he went Cockney. We were not predicting that, were we?
We weren't. So that gives him exactly the same score as Mark King, which I think is fair, actually. I think they both put their all into it, and we really appreciate that. So big thanks to Gary Wilson for that, and hopefully we can get him on the podcast at some point. I think he's somebody that would be up for it. So that would be a nice one, wouldn't it, if we could get him on?
We just need to find his contact details. Or just buy a memo and go...
and say, will you come on the podcast? Email us at snookerloopypodcast@gmail.com.
He just replies with a video just going, no. And that's all he does.
Just looking at who is available on Memo that we haven't had a Snooker Loopy version from yet. So we've got Stephen Hendry, of course, who you did try and fail. He's the one that started all of this. Mark Davis, Mark Joyce, Curtis Norman, apparently. I don't know who Curtis Norman is, but he's got a picture with Judd there. And then we've got Alex Ursenbacher. Some interesting names in there. I mean, it's Alex Ursenbacher's going to take up most of the spreadsheet just with his name.
Well, you know we have him coming because
I
you
know,
stumbled upon it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Which I'm kind of happy about because he's the cheapest one. And I didn't want you to go, oh, he's cheap, I'll get him. Us ended up having two different versions by. Even though we could do that. We could go. We could get Mark King again and see if he goes back to the car park.
But surely he's just going to reject it thinking we're taking the mick.
No, because we'll go, you are one of our favourite snooker players in terms of singing Snooker Loopy. Can you sing it again, please? Or the Romford rap. He's from Romford.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I don't know if you've been on Stephen Hendry's page, though, on Memo and like listened to some of the things that he's done memos for. He's always like, oh, hi, Jill. I hear you're having a bit of problem with your knee at the moment. And, I'm really sorry to hear that. As he's just in some random Chinese restaurant. Like, he's like, hopefully you feel better soon.
God, he's 54 quid, Stephen Hendry.
I know. £1 for each of his years.
Yeah, that's insane. We should try for him again at some point, I think.
Oh,
we
yeah.
should.
Maybe we could do that for the relaunch. Maybe he could be the cue the music for the relaunch. I'll give him a go.
If any listeners want to get memos from snooker players and send them in to us, if you want to get a memo and just get Dennis Taylor to talk about sausages for 5 minutes, we'll happily listen to it on the podcast.
Yes, there's the space sausage. If we could get a memo of Dennis going, good evening, Hazel. Good evening, everybody at home. Then you wouldn't need me anymore, Tom.
I would always need you, mate. I'd always need you.
But we could just cut that audio from every piece of snooker commentary that he's done.
I think there's enough of it out there. I think we're doing all right.
I think I will. I'll try and get Hendry for you, Tom.
Can you ask him if he'll do it just as rubbish?
I think he'd definitely say no then.
Joe, if you say, tell Hendry it's for your 6-year-old daughter who's a massive fan of...
Who's got a sore knee.
She's got a sore knee and she's a massive fan of The Masked Singer. She loved Rubbish, that was her favourite one. And she's also a fan of snooker, so she would love it if, for her 8th birthday, he could sing Snooker Loopy dressed as Rubbish and really go... Also, she's very ill. We don't know if she'll make it another year, so please, Stephen, we really need this.
My 6-year-old daughter, Hazel.
It's the one thing Hazel's asked for, Stephen, please. It might be the one thing that gets her through this illness, Stephen. Please, come on.
Yes, she's got snooker knee.
Snooker knee, paid is me.
Oh dear, it's a cracker. It's a cracker.
Hi, I'm Stephen Hendry. I used to play snooker. I've just heard Diamond Lights by Goldstein and Cundy, and I thought Snooker Loopy was the worst thing I'd ever heard. But anyway, just buy it for Great Ormond Street Hospital. Thank you.
Should we wrap up then?
Well, there we go, Joe. The semi-finals are over, and we're heading towards the final of the World Snooker Championship. Kyron Wilson against Jack Jones. Our predictions for the semi-finals were wrong, but either way, we may as well predict the final because we've got nothing to lose. So I'm going to go Kyron to win because he's got the experience playing in a final and he's won titles before. I know that, so had Bingham and so had Trump and Jones beat them, but I think it might give Kyron the edge. I think he might win. It's one of those. It'll either be really close or it'll be like Kyron's last final, but the other way around. When he was against Ronnie, and it could be close to 18-9 or something like that.
Go on, put your money on it. Which one you gonna go for?
I'm going to go 18-11. That's what I'm going to go. I don't think Jones will. He's not going to be worried. He's not going to be out of it. But just something about Kyra in this tournament. Similar to Jones, neither of them have looked like they're in trouble at all, have they?
No. But I'm inclined to agree with you. I think Kyron will win. I think my true prediction is Kyron 18-12. However, what might happen, based on how this World Championship has gone, Jack Jones 18-17.
You want that? You want a Black Ball final, don't you?
Well, I don't think we'll be that lucky, but I want a deciding frame. I really want a deciding frame. And I just kind of like the story of Jack Jones winning the world title. But I really want Kyron to win, and I think that will happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jack Jones wins it 18-17. I'd put it this way, I don't think Jack Jones is going to win it 18-10, 18-9. If he's going to win it, it's going to be 16-15, 17, I reckon. Something like that.
There we go. That's our predictions. Let us know in the comments. Do remember to subscribe to the new YouTube channel at Snooker Loopy Podcast, where we'll have all future videos and we'll have the review of the World Championships probably on some point on Tuesday. I don't think we're going to rush it out because, frankly, I think me and Joe, we deserve a little bit of a rest, but it will hopefully be out Tuesday. But it's not going to be 9 a.m. like these ones have been.
Well, I think the World Championship review itself will be on Wednesday, but we will have a video reviewing the final. That'll be our final Crucible Roundup, day 17, and a farewell to Tom's channel for the podcast on Tuesday. So looking forward to recording that, hopefully not on Tuesday, because that means it'll have gone after midnight.
Mate, you're the one who wants the Black Ball final finishing at 1:30 in the morning with Jack Jones potting it and holding the cue up above his head and then waggling his finger.
Yeah, well, one can only hope. And then maybe in 30 years we can get Jack Jones on Memo singing Snooker Loopy.
That's when you know you've got where you want to be in your life. But there we go. Let us know what you think, guys. Make sure to follow us on all the social medias, because the more numbers we have, the more people we can hopefully get on the podcast in future. Because one of our things after the World Championship, I think during the sort of lull before the start of the season, we're going to have our usual things, like we'll cover the World Seniors, we'll preview Q School, but we're also hoping to maybe get some video interviews done of people within snooker. So the more people we have supporting the channels, the more likely that someone like Gary Wilson might go, yeah, all right, I'll come on the podcast. Or, I want to get Joe Johnson, but I don't even know if he knows how to use a webcam, but we shall see.
We'll have to get Joe Johnson's daughter to help him.
If anyone knows Joe Johnson's daughter...
Tom's eyes lit up there when he was asking that.
I just thought, imagine having Joe Johnson as your father-in-law. Can you imagine?
I think that would be a sign of everlasting love.
There we go. That's how we end it. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in.